Uh, Hello, everyone, once again. I'll just quickly introduce Walking Tree for anyone joining us for the first time, and then we can get on with our speakers. With today's session, Walking Tree is a technology focused company with a core focus on designing and building cross platform web and mobile applications, perform system integrations, and enable digital transformation. With a strong focus on cloud and open source software backed by agile methodologies and DevOps practices, we have helped clients reap the benefits of the latest technologies while continuously modernizing their ecosystem. We have pushed ourselves to become an excellent team or resource in each and every stage of the software development life cycle, starting with requirement analysis, UX design, coding best practices, taking care of testing, quality assurance to test automation. We have also had opportunities where customers have engaged us with their system integration, modernization of their legacy systems to the latest technology and architecture, including taking care of their migration from on-premise to cloud. Our strategy and research-driven UI UX design have helped our clients transform customer experiences to drive stronger acquisition growth and retention. This is at the core of what we do. We are quite flexible in our engagement models to suit a diverse set of industries domains that perfectly blend cost, performance, agility, and innovation. Uh, on to our speakers of the day, we have quite a contrasting set. Scott is a principal solutions architect here at Walking Tree Technologies and comes with an experience of almost 30 years now in engineering enterprise computing systems. These include many years of cloud computing experience with public and private cloud architectures. He has also worked in all phases of software development lifecycle, including product ideation, design, development, testing, implementation, and operation support. We also have Partha with us, who is a UX lead here at Walking Tree. He has extensive experience in user experience design and having worked on end-to-end projects with multi-domain platforms, including healthcare. So that was about us. Before I hand it over to our speakers, I'd like to remind that you all that we would have some time for some questions at the end. So if you do have any questions, any feedback, you can leave them in the Q&A box. We will try to address as many as time permits today. So on to our speakers, over to you, Scott. Thank you for joining us today.
All right, thank you, Pranshu. One of the things that really excites me as a solution architect is I get to deal with a lot of different areas of technology. And healthcare and the healthcare tech space especially gives me an opportunity to really play in a lot of areas. And there's so many exciting things that are going on right now in the healthcare tech space. And I'm just going to run through some of those just so we kind of get a feel for what we're dealing with in terms of the different areas of innovation going on right now. And one of those is certainly in new drug development. I saw a couple of weeks ago NVIDIA commissioned this new AI supercomputer called Cambridge One. And so much AI, computing capacity that's in that machine. It's incredible. And one of the things that they're working on first is they're working with AstraZeneca to come up with new drugs. So, at one point, in our AI, even in our AI development, and as we thought about AI, we could never think about the level of computing that's available to us now. So they're going to really use this supercomputer to cut down on the time it takes to discover new drugs, and the applications for that are just astronomical. So a lot of great things going on around new drug development and new platforms being developed for things like that. And that kind of brings us into the next area, and that's data-driven healthcare. We have no shortage of data out there. but we've always had an issue of a couple of things, right? Is we've got data, but really, how do we make it consistent? And we're still working on some of those spaces. I think, especially in healthcare, is really coming up with some standards. I know Google is working on some ways to standardize that. And others, I'm sure, are going to come on board with that. What does that really buy us, though? Data-driven healthcare allows us to come up with better treatments. So it puts that data in the hands of doctors and different practitioners that can use that to treat people. And the result of that really is better outcomes for patients. And the next area is wearables. Think years ago we had Fitbits that tracked our steps, and that was fantastic. And then we got things like the Apple Watch that just keeps innovating and innovating on monitoring our health and different aspects of our lives. We can track our sleep and so many other things. And I think one that I've seen, lately that really fascinates me, that I think can really help a lot of people, is in the area of continuous glucose monitoring. And you think about, we can have a device on our arms that can monitor our glucose, and people with issues with that can track it in their daily activity. So the foods you eat, the exercise you get or don't get, you can track all of that, and you can kind of tell almost real time. You can track it back and say, hey, my numbers are way off. Why is that? Well, now you can really look back at your day and kind of pinpoint what that is. You don't have to guess and start cutting this out, that out. You kind of know, you get real-time feedback. The other area is electronic medical and health records. We're going to spend time on that today. And these are really an important space. And I can tell you, recently, having to deal with and caregive for an aging parent, I've spent a lot of time in these systems. And this is also an important aspect of the daily lives of doctors, pharmacists, and other practitioners, right? So we'll dive into that a bit later. But a lot of great things, that are being innovated around gathering and displaying of health records that we'll discuss more. Enhanced telemedicine. Now, a year ago, we were talking about telemedicine, right? Just trying to get that refined enough to where that was really a very useful tool. And of course, with COVID, it kind of forced that. And I think the community responded, and so much so that we've innovated to the point where we're talking enhanced now. And we're bringing telemedicine out to the rural areas and all kind of places we never thought it could go. And then we're also looking at things like AI that is in line with those telehealth visits that can help the doctors with diagnoses and those kind of things. And the other area is around augmented reality. And think about this technology. You've got a specialist around the world maybe that's talking with a surgeon in a procedure room, and using goggles can almost look and also point to areas on the screen of the procedure room. You can even have the hands and fingers that the specialists are showing, hey, you need to do this or that. So it's like you're putting that specialist in that procedure room. And then virtual reality is an interesting area for me, and I really like this because one case of that is radiation treatment, right? So if you can create a virtual model of, say, a tumor and the surrounding tissues, and then you can use that to accurately know where the radiation needs to go so that you hit the tumor and not kill the surrounding tissues. And then the area of smart hospitals, medical instruments. We've got instruments out there and sensors that giving us real-time feedback and things. And we got cameras. We got cameras that can detect patient falls, that can look for PPE. If you're going into, people are coming in and out of a facility, if they need to be wearing PPE, you can quickly sense that and alert. Or if you're going into a procedure room and you need to have all your protective covering on, you can monitor those kind of things. So many things going on around smart hospitals. And one that really excites me, an innovation, is real-time AI at the edge. And that's really bringing really strong AI engines out to the edge of the networks, or into the location of where the healthcare is taking place, and being able to run AI at the site instead of having to ship it off to a data center to be processed. And then 5G connected sensors. Our telecom partners out there have done a great job at trying to get this 5G network infrastructure laid out to us. And what that provides is a low latency infrastructure that we can use sensors and those kind of things. And you're thinking about the applications of that with like FirstNet, for instance, and that network is dedicated to first responders. Well, if you're at an accident scene, now you can, we have the ability to gather sensory type data or video and talk to a specialist on the other end that can help provide trauma treatment to the first responders, even on site. And then the other area that I like as well, we've got a lot of great reference apps and applications for doctors and practitioners. And you can get disease information, you can get drug information and their interactions and so forth in the palm of their hand. So putting tools in the hands of those who are providing care for us. And as we know, a lot of those folks have had a really tough year, right? It's been a busy year. They've had to work even in the midst of a pandemic. So giving them tools and making those things available to them in those busy times are really big helps. And another area is medical imaging AI. And I think about this, I think about a radiologist, for example, who is taking a look at scans, and it's just really another set of eyes that can really look at things on that scan from an unbiased perspective, right? And then the area of genomics, we used to think that just sequencing DNA was pretty amazing. Well, now we're not just sequencing DNA, we're able to look and use the information that we find in that DNA. So lots of great areas. Really excites me as a technology person, but I'd like to shift our focus a little bit to all this is great, but really when we talk in terms of healthcare, and I would even argue in a lot of industries, we think about, well, who's going to use this? And I think what I have discovered, especially in being a caregiver, is I'm not a user, right? You don't. This system is not something you're pushing on me for me to use. These systems are things that we're using to look and make decisions about day-to-day life, about our situation, and just being called a user really doesn't really capture what I'm going through, right? I'm a real person. I'm going through a lot of things. There's a lot of things happening in my life. I've got work, you got caregiving, you got kids, you've got property to keep up. I have a garden. I have a lot of things going on, and just seeing me as a user doesn't quite capture who I am when I go to look at a system. So as we go into this next section, what I want to do is just kind of highlight in terms of healthcare tech. I want to highlight some of the key stakeholders, the key use cases that we have. And what I thought was important, right, is, again, these stakeholders, there are people there. So we went out and talked to different, the different key holders, the patients, the doctors, pharmacists, medical practitioners, and spoke with each of these folks about, well, when you are using healthcare tech, what's your experience? How do you use or utilize, I should say, and that use is just a term we've come up with, right, that we probably over utilize. But each of these are people, and they're doing things that impact people. So, and our lives. So each person is going through different things, the patient or the caregiver here, looking at medical visits, prescriptions, your test results, your diagnoses, or your loved one's diagnoses. And in terms of doctors, they're looking at electronic medical records to treat patients. They're using it to view test results and scans, and those systems should be there to help them with the workflows that they have to make their lives not just simpler, but to make them more accurate and to assist them so they're not making mistakes because there's so much going on. I can't imagine what medical professionals go through, because you're seeing hundreds of people, and it's just from one to another. So you've got to have, and our jobs is to make our system such that they are efficient in that. And then pharmacists, same type thing. You're dealing with patients, but you're dealing with, you're dealing with prescriptions, but you're also having to run your businesses, right? So you're having to do order inventory and those kind of things. And then the other area is medical practitioners. That does not exclude doctors, but could be a doctor, could be a nurse practitioner, physician's assistant, same kind of deal as a doctor. They're dealing with looking at a patient's information and diagnosing, looking at test results, and coming up with care plans for us. So what we did, we went out and asked each of these people, well, what are the things you face? And the first one I'll start with is the patient, or really caregiver. And this was me, this was my feedback. And so what I've noticed out there is a lot of good information out there, but not all of our screens, especially in a summary where I just need to go look at something. Sometimes it's hard to read, both from a technical standpoint and how I navigate it, or even do I have the medical savviness to even be looking at it? You know, we got things like buttons and icons. Those things need to be more intuitive. They're not always consistent. And our medication screens, it's difficult because we have to click around to get to that. And you know, some of these systems are for single providers, right? So we have to go to multiple systems. And some of those things are around, you know, HIPAA compliance and those kind of things. So I get some of that. But as a community, we've got to come up with some ways to help navigate that. And then, you know, just being able to read through things, right? If I'm reading through notes on a diagnosis of a scan and it's telling me I have a terminal condition or my loved one has a terminal condition, the physicians, the providers, the practitioners do a good job of alerting us of that. But when I go look at these screens, I don't always know what's going on and know the seriousness of it. So maybe better ways to communicate that through systems. The next area is the doctor. You know, a doctor looks at a electronic medical record, and the physicians I spoke with, one thing that really stood out to me was they need to customize these screens, and they need to be able to really set their workflow right, because a cardiologist is different than a pathologist or an oncologist. And so the workflows need to be customizable, and they need to be in such a way that it helps them, as busy as they are, and really, really intelligent people, right? But they have a lot to keep up with. Our systems should have workflows that aid in that and help them be accurate and efficient in what they do. And the other area is just around, hey, we need real information on these screens. I don't need to have to go back and let me refresh and try to make sure I've got the latest. These systems need to be letting me know that, either updating or letting me know their updates. The next stakeholder is a pharmacist. You know, a pharmacist has a lot going on. They're using pharmacy medical management software. And yet some of the issues they face isn't always the same system that they use to communicate with their patients, and they need efficient ways and secure ways to communicate. Maybe your prescription's ready, or maybe you've got something to communicate about that drug and interactions. And then just really having to go to different systems to send like notifications for prescriptions and so forth. And some of these systems integrate, some they don't. So you know, just a challenge to, you know, we need to take those things into account as we develop systems. And the last area I'd like to focus on is medical practitioner. Again, that nurse practitioner, physician's assistant, or doctor. And the key issue there was, hey, look, when I am talking to my patient, because these folks, they look at our total care, right? They look at our not only our overall health, they look at our sleep. They look at what we eat, how we recreate or recreate, right? How do we relax? They look at all those things, and when they're taking notes or they're gathering vitals and all these kind of things, those should be feeding into the notes and the summaries for the patient. And also, you know, when they're coming up with a diagnosis and the diagnosis code, right? There's this thing called ICD-10-CM. I won't go into a ton of that. Just think of it as a standard transaction code set that is used for diagnostic purposes, right, to code these systems. Well, when they search in these screens of the EMRs, they sometimes have, even though they search on keywords, it comes up with 15 or 20, and they still have to choose. So need better, more precise searches to be able to do that. So what I'd like to say to wrap up my little part of this talk is just that, you know, these aren't users, folks. These are real people with real life circumstances. And we as technology innovators need to keep that in mind, that these are people, and we need to develop our systems in such a way that these users are able to to have an enhancement to their lives and what they're doing. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our UX lead, Partha. And Partha, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Scott. So I'll take it up from here. Hi, folks. So today we will be discussing about how UX will impact the healthcare domain and how we can improvise different experiences for different stakeholders in healthcare domain. So before that, I'd like to explain what is the typical difference between user experience design and user interface design. So when we talk about user experience, it's more about solving a problem, but more often than not, we tend to solve it on a digital product. So we should also include user interface to actually solve the realistic problems. But if we think about user experience as a standalone subject, it is more about solving problems. It may not include user interface design. So we will be mostly focusing on user experience design today, but it also will involve a few parts of user interface enhancements as well. So that is the difference between both of them, and we will move ahead. So if we see, these are the few typical screens that we can see in the current healthcare domain. So these are the patient screens from a particular software where we see different reports and different charts and how their reports are being stacked on top of each other. So this is kind of a legacy design, we can say. And most of the people that we have interviewed have complained a lot about not being able to navigate properly or not even understanding what to do with this data. So these are typical screens we would like to show. And this is also another set of screens where appointment management is looking like this. And here, if you see, this is a report of a particular patient. So it's more textual and it's very hard to read. And also we don't know which information inside this is important to us and which is not. So it takes a lot of time for any user to get a grasp of the software or application. So it takes a lot of effort for the eyes to scan this entire page. And this is a software for pharmacists that people are using around. And it's again a legacy design where everything is more textual based and not optimized for high quality usage, for faster completion of tasks. So these are typical screens that we would like to show initially. So going forward, we will discuss about how we can implement user experience practices inside healthcare to optimize this task flows. So first one action per page. So this is a very promising, practice in user experience to make sure that there will be only one action per page that the user have to do. In order to make life easier for them, we should make sure that all our actions in a particular application are divided into multiple screens in which each screen will contain one single action. So that will give us a minimal and effective content for each page, and also one action or decision per page. And also the content inside each page should be latest and relevant. So most of the times, applications tend to load a lot of data inside every page, and it makes it more and more clumsy for the users to understand what is inside that page. So we should also make sure that the content is latest. Let's say if the content is yesterday, there is an update from the other place, or a device. That latest content should be updated on the screen so that the patient will be updated. It's not like he has to search for the latest content. So that is very important again. So this is the first suggestion. Next one, use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we have seen a lot of new technologies that are coming up with relation to artificial intelligence and machine learning in other segments of healthcare as well. But when it comes to digital products, especially, we have a very beautiful promising software technologies, which is voice to text, image recognition, and character recognition. This is very, very helpful because it will clearly reduce the time that we need to take to add the data into the applications, because most of the people will spend a lot of time entering the data into the healthcare applications. So instead of wasting all the time, we can use these technologies like voice to text. So if we are able to just spell out what we want to say, that if the system can take this input as a audio and convert it into textual format and save it in a record, it will be much helpful for the user so that he can save a lot of time there. Even image recognition, if there is a lab report and if we are able to scan the report and get the important points from that, and if only those important points are saved in a particular document, that will save a lot of time for all the people using this application. And character recognition, it is also related to lab reports, scanning and other related stuff. So these kind of technologies will always help save a lot of time for the people. Next one is mobile first approach. Again, if you see a lot of applications were becoming mobile first, but we have to make sure some small areas are taken into consideration before thinking about actual mobile first. So only important details have to be considered when we are designing for mobile application. So more and more people are using mobile applications nowadays. So we have to make sure it is scalable to a desktop application, but still not so clumsy in a mobile device. So the important details should be given and the rest of the details should be saved for a desktop based application. Then intent based navigation. This is more of a situation where we only show people what they want to see. So we don't give them all the details that we have at the same time. So whenever the user is on a main screen, we will give him all the options that he can choose from so that he can make a decision very easily. But when he's inside a particular screen, after making a decision, if he's inside a detailed screen, we will only show the details of that particular decision and not anything else. So that will make his flow very easy, and he will also understand where he is exactly, so that he will not be confused at all. And again, responsiveness. So it should, the applications that we design for mobile, it should be responsive in all the possible devices inside mobile domain. So it should not cut down any of the data. So let's say sometimes if the particular application is not designed for a particular device, a few buttons might be missing because it might go out of the screen by cropping it out. And also some of the data might go out of the screen, so which might cause a lot of problems. And if the users do not recognize it, there's a big problem there. So that should be taken care of. Then faster loading. Again, mobile applications have 3G, 4G and 5G internet. So obviously we need to make sure that our pages are lighter and they load faster. Then making use of native features, because push notifications, camera, and voice audio recording. So all these are very, very important features that a mobile device gives us. So if you're able to make use of these native features, it will help a lot in significantly decreasing the time that a user spends on a particular application. So these are the mobile first approaches. Then we talk about emphasis. So very often we speak about emphasis in user experience design. So when we say emphasize a particular element, it's nothing but we have to make sure that the user's eye catches it as quickly as possible. So if you give the if you give a lot of data in the screen, it's highly unlikely that a person would gather a certain point of information initially. So the attention will not go onto a single information. The user will typically scan all the data, and he will have to perceive it by himself as to which one is important to him. But when we emphasize a particular area of the screen, it will make it easier for the users to focus on that particular area and understand that it is important for him to see there. So if you see in this example, we have highlighted that 96 liters is important to him, and definitely other areas are there, other elements in the screen are also available, but they are not that much important. So here in this screen, the user will only focus on the water content that he has consumed in that particular day. So this way we can emphasize the user's attention and give him actual details which are relevant to him. So there are different ways we can emphasize. I can quickly give a highlight of that. So we can emphasize an element by making it different in size, shape, color, texture, and adding an icon, having an alignment in a different way. I mean, we can play with a lot of alignments, styles and layout styles. That will also give a lot of emphasis to different elements. And then adding image. Definitely, if you see an image on a screen, it will attract a lot of attention from any user. So adding an image will be, very effective emphasizing technique. Then animation, of course, when compared to any of the other techniques, animation and audio, they are one of the most, effective ways of emphasizing elements. So these are different ways of which we can emphasize elements on the screen. But we should also strategize before emphasizing anything. We should not just emphasize it for the sake of doing it, but we should make sure that whatever we are emphasizing is very, very useful for the user in that particular screen. Going forward, we have healthcare wearables. So when we are designing for healthcare, we should also keep in consideration as to what is the possibility of connecting different healthcare variables inside these applications. So if you are designing an application which is for fitness tracking, so there are different devices that will enable the connectivity. So we should make sure that all the data that we are getting from those devices are properly shown, and we should also make sure that the connectivity issues are not there. So even a normal person should be able to connect easily, because most of the times the connectivity issues arise because of a lot of complex ways of connectivity and authentication technologies. So we should make sure that it is very easily connectable to multiple devices and manage them. So there are different variables outside. So if you see, fitness trackers are there, blood pressure monitors, blood sugar machines, oximeters, asthma monitors, and also very funny, it's like ingestible sensors are also there, which means when we take a tablet, it will the sensor inside the tablet will come along with the tablet into our stomach, and it will dissolve along with the tablet, and it will send a message to our mobile saying that this tablet is properly dissolved. So that's a beautiful technology, and a lot of other technologies are also being introduced in this domain. So while we are designing our healthcare applications, we should make sure that we use as many of these wearable devices as possible, so that we give best possible experience for the users, so that they can connect with these devices and get accurate information. Then we have simplified data entry. Again, as we spoke in the previous slides, data entry has become one of the biggest problem for most of the users, because it takes a lot of time to enter the data. So especially in healthcare domain, we have to enter a lot of records, we have to enter a lot of statistics and vitals in order to send our details to our doctors or even healthcare professionals that we work with. So in order to simplify this, so voice to text, image recognition, character recognition, this is what we spoke previously. But along with that, we should also make sure that the entire flow will be optimized accordingly. So it's not just voice to text that is important, but if you see here in this example, we are clearly giving different segregations for different data entry points, and we are making it more visual rather than textual. So we are showing that different sections of entry are there. We can also write notes, we can also add a date. So this way, it's not just the textual data that we are entering. We can clearly separate different types of data that we are going to log into the system, and also retrieving this data will become very easy later on. So simplified data entry technologies, we have to research a lot on that, and it always changes from different use case to use case. So we should make sure that we give a lot of importance to this segment as well. Going forward, we have stats and graphs, and this is very important in almost any other industry, but somehow healthcare did not take very much priority of this segment. So we have to make sure that healthcare devices have proper statistics and graphs. So because we have a lot of data in healthcare, but somehow we are not optimizing our devices to make use of it. So when we have all this data, and if we are able to synthesize the data properly, we will actually make better decisions in our professions. So when we are able to customize the views, so let's say as an example, there are different specialties in healthcare domain. So a particular doctor might not need all the different statistics of different specialties. He might only need to see what is relevant to him. So if there is a hospital dashboard which shows all the statistics, so there should also be a customizable view for a particular specialization, so that that visualizations are only relevant to that specialization. So when we say neurology statistics will be completely different from when we comparative to gastroenterology, let's say. So different flows should be incorporated in the particular dashboards, so that different doctors will have a personalized view of their own flows. Then again, sorting by date, because there can be data relevant to 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, but an effective sorting filter that can give us exact date within which the data belongs to will give a good idea about what this data is all about. Again, sorting by patients, sorting by specialty, and notifying with color. These are different aspects of statistics and graphs in a dashboard. So especially this is a very special point, leading details. This is all about, see, we have a lot of details on the page, but suddenly if we wonder what if I want to see details about orthopedics, or what if I want to see details about average patients per month, and maybe what if I want to see the details of these patients who are here. So the leading pages are something which will enable the user to quickly gather the details of this particular section. So let's say if we click on this section particularly, it can open a pop-up which can give the list of patients which this number is belonging to. Let's say if there is 300 available records. So when we click on this particular section, it will open a pop-up or even a new page which can give the details of these 300 people. So the doctor can quickly gather around these details and understand all these patients and their individual details as well. So this way he need not travel along a lot of different screens to get the details that he want. So this way he can also have a lot of navigation links in the same page, enabling him to get a grasp of whatever he want in one single click. So leading pages are very, very important when we talk about dashboards. Then notifying with color, this is also very important. If you see the red color that we have, it's clearly highlighted, and we can't take our attention off of it. So whenever there is something important to be addressed, we should not expect anyone to actually look into it by themselves. So we have to give a proper coloring so that it will be highlighted in a way that they will understand that there should be an action that needs to be taken. So this way we tell the people what is important and what is not, because definitely everything here is important, but definitely something like this highlighted will give a sense of urgency and let them do tasks quickly. That is about stats and graphs in dashboards. Next one is real-time cloud sync. Recently pretty much every industry has adapted AWS cloud and Google cloud as well. So this way even medical industry has a lot of advantage with the cloud technologies, because if you see doctors and medical practitioners and even patients, nowadays everybody's on the go and nobody actually sits down in a place and have the time to sync up all their data and stuff. So having a cloud storage which will sync up around all their devices will definitely help people to mobilize a lot. So this will also have an accurate data that will be available on all their devices. So let's say in a medical practice, right, if we enter a data in one device and if it is not updated in another device, we have a lot of risk there, because there is a high chance that we consider the error as a reality and we proceed with the diagnosis and even operation as well. So this have to be reduced by real-time cloud sync, so that the data is synced in a real time, and also it prevents a lot of errors. This way we can also give accessibility to different people. Let's say we have our well-wishers across the globe, and if we want to share our health details with them, so cloud-based storage which is very quick enough to share our details with other people, that will always help us to share our details in real time. So let's say if there is any panic attack with our patient, and he can quickly give an alert to his son or any other relatives nearby through a simple click of a button, so that they can know about this situation and they can respond very quickly. It can also be linked to hospitals and different healthcare agencies, so that they can also respond very quickly. So real-time cloud sync will be a very good advantage in applications of healthcare. Next one is visual cognition. Again, this is a very important term in user experience design. So visual cognition is nothing but when we are combining our visual data with prior knowledge, which means we might have seen a particular device in our maybe 1 month ago or 2 months ago. And when we see the device again, we will have a high chance of remembering it rather than again trying to understand what it is. So if you see here, we are giving iconography as visual cognition. So when we see this device, we can clearly remember that this is a blood sugar test device. So we need not read that this is a blood sugar test. So we can quickly understand that this is about blood sugar and this is about BP and this is about MRI. So however, we have the screen design. If we are able to add icons relevant to each one of the item, we can clearly give the intimation to the users that they can understand very easily what they're looking at, and they need not read on a textual basis. This is visual cognitions, and we have to make sure that wherever it is applicable, we should use this technique. Then the most important thing in healthcare domain, which is HIPAA compliance. So most of the people might have already read about it, and it's nothing but Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It is just to save the data of the healthcare domain to be private and secure. So it's all about data privacy and security. And again, it should be dealing with most of encryption and authentication technologies. So we are kind of not allowed to share healthcare details or healthcare data to anyone who is not authorized, actually. So since we are dealing with patients' data, which is very sensitive, there are a lot of people who would be benefited with the data as well, or they might do a any kind of misuse of that particular data. So as a HIPAA compliance methodology, we should make sure that our application follows all the regulations given by HIPAA compliance. There are a lot of details or prescriptions given by this particular HIPAA compliance agreement and pact. And if our application is taking any data from the healthcare perspective from the patients, we should definitely comply with HIPAA rules. So this way, I think typically we have to take care of these three items, which is encryption of the data, which will not enable the data to be leaked out to third-party sources, and two-factor authentication. So it is making sure that our users are using it on an authentic basis and not being hacked by someone, and having a session timeout, which will make sure that someone who has access to the devices will not actually misuse the data. So these three are typical use cases that we can apply while complying with HIPAA compliance. So other than that, we can also look into different strategies, like if we are enabling any third-party service inside our application, we should also write proper agreements to make sure that they are not in any position to misuse the data that they get from our application. So managing these third-party vendors is also very important with respect to HIPAA compliance. So when we are compliant to HIPAA, right, so we have a lot of privileges as well. So people recognize us as safe and trust partners. So we can get a lot of brand value as well in that area. Then accuracy, again, this is one of the typical user experience practice that we'll follow most of the times. So this is nothing but whenever a person is making an action inside an application, if that particular action is leading to a destructive position by him, like if you are deleting something that might be important in the future, or if you are doing any action that needs confirmation, so that is where we have to show a confirmation screen for sure. So it always involves error prevention rather than remedy, because after an error is occurred, we having an undo option, or even retrieving it from data source, or it is not kind of an appreciable thing. So we have to make sure that the errors are prevented rather than solved afterwards. So verifying destructive actions and confirmations as a reaction are very important in user experience design. So we have to implement the same in healthcare domain as well, because most of the patients who are elderly might not have an idea about what they are doing on an application. So most of the times they might mistakenly delete something which is important. So whenever we give the screen which is additional to a delete option, so they get an idea, okay, maybe they get to read this again and they understand, and they have a second chance to verify their action. So that way we can make sure that whatever they are doing is intentional and accurate. Then use of color. So having healthcare domain being a very sensitive field, we should make sure that the users who are using these applications are cool and calm and are not in any pressure situation. So using a minimal use of color, use of cool colors, which is the colors we see on the left side here, blue, green, and other shades of pink. They are more of a cool colors rather than giving more harsh look on the application. So using of cool colors, and also using color to emphasize prominence, as we discussed earlier. So emphasizing with color is also very helpful in healthcare applications. So these are the best practices, like using grays, more of the grays rather than different colors to design most of the application will be recommended. And also light colors, like having lighter saturation levels also is recommended, so that the user's eye will be in a cool state, and rather than having a lot of colors in the eye, which is painful for most of the people. So we should use the lighter colors in that area. So first, now we'll be talking about different use cases, right? So we have different people like patients, doctors, healthcare practitioners and stuff. And we'll be talking about what are the different exciting things that they might expect in healthcare in the coming days. A lot of advancements are definitely happening, but we have had time to research on different levels and understand different problems that these individual people are facing, in healthcare domain. And we thought of giving a gist of what we can achieve in the coming times, so that can be helpful for these people. So going forward, first one is patients. So definitely most of the patients that we interviewed are very much interested in seeing a lot of beautiful dashboards, which will give them a better insight into their health, and giving exactly what they want to see is what is expected from any user. So if you see in this designs, we have a properly aligned and sectioned dashboard where each part of the layout is talking about a different section. So this part is healthcare diagnosis. Here we have a calendar, which can give us proper reminders about what we have to do about our health. Let's say if there is any appointment, if there is any medicine that we have to take, even the medication reminders can be incorporated in dashboards. And if you see on the bottom, any IoT devices that are linked up, that can be shown very clearly here, and the readings from them can be shown in real time. So this way, a patient can in real time can monitor his own health, and also anyone who is not in reach of this patient can actually see the details of this health of this particular patient. So it's not only the desktop device, we can also incorporate the same dashboards in mobile devices as well. So this way you can carry it out anywhere. And any person, let's say if we are children of our parents, right, our parents might be far away from us, and we might want to take care of them by looking at their health on time to time. So when we have this kind of devices on our mobile devices, mobile applications, so that way we can on the go monitor our parents and other well-wishers health, and we can understand exactly what is happening with them. So dashboards and AI based suggestions as to what to do next would be recommended for patients as a healthcare application domain. The next one is options to share. Sorry. So the next one is options to share. So most of the time we would want to share our healthcare records with other people, and also even we have to make sure that they are secure with us in the first place. So enabling a proper record management and sharing options would be highly recommended for patient-based applications, where they should be able to track even a record which is 5 years old. So let's say if there is any problem with his health right as of now, this can be tracked back to the same health issue that he has faced 5 years ago. So on a normal use case, right, most of the patients might miss out on storing these healthcare records in a proper place, and they might miss out on actually recalling what happened at that point of time. So having a proper record management and being able to share it with different people will definitely help the users to quickly have the command over their data. And also keeping in mind HIPAA compliance in this area will be very important. Going forward, we'll discuss about doctors. So nowadays, it's due to COVID and other stuff, we have a lot of prominence to real-time patient monitoring. So this is nothing but nowadays doctors are having to take more care of the patients rather than patients coming and sitting along with the doctors. There are situations where patients might not be able to visit the doctor from time to time, or maybe another scenario as well, where patients are not having that appointments in the right time, or they have an emergency where the doctor might not actually attend to that particular patient. So all these scenarios have led to a proper real-time patient monitoring as a proper need in healthcare domain. So having a dashboards like this for every doctor in an application, like where a doctor can actually take in the data from each patient, and whenever the doctor wants to see the details, he can get a gist of what is going on with the patient. So this is a typical data or vitals that we can get from a patient, which can give a gist of what the health of this patient is right now. So this way the doctor can communicate with the patient if there is any emergency, or if there is any suggestion he has to give, and this way he can also monitor the medications from this same dashboard itself. So this is going to be a very huge trend in the medical healthcare industry. So we have to keep in mind when we are designing applications for doctors. So we have to make sure that RPM is also included in that. The next one is note taking. So this is also a very good trend that we are seeing in healthcare domain for doctors. So when the doctor is in the hospital, or even he's on the run, he might have to take very important notes, and most often doctors tend to take it on paper, and most often again they have to store it in a place, or maybe they might miss out on actually knowing where it is or remembering where it is. And this happens with most of the doctors, and we have got this as a very big problem from them. So having a proper note-taking application or note-taking feature inside an application for doctors, that will be really helpful for doctors. So inside here, we have different ways of note-taking as well. It need not be just the text. It can be a picture-based note-taking. It can be a audio-based, or also it can be a video-based note-taking. So this way he can clearly understand what is he going through with a particular patient, and what are the different practices that he incorporated in a particular treatment of disease. That way he can keep track of his different methodologies, and he can also share if he wants to share it with other people. So these are the typical screens that we can see for note taking. Then we have a diagnosis engine. Again, this is going to be a big feature for doctors if you are actually looking into this in applications, right? So diagnosis engine is nothing but having an option to make sure that the doctor can actually make a visual diagnosis rather than writing it down on a paper or typing it down with his hand. So it is like having a full body image, having different parts that are selectable, and by looking at the symptoms of the patient, if the doctor is able to diagnose and he can note it down in a particular area inside that particular patient's own records, that way he can also share it with the patient. And again, as we told previously, a patient can store these records from time to time, and even after a period of 5 years, right, we can actually retrieve this data, retrieve this diagnosis, and accurately we can recollect what happened at that particular point of time. This way record keeping will become more organized and more digital oriented. So instead of writing it on a paper, if we are introducing diagnosis engines into different specialties of healthcare domain, this will enable more digitization of healthcare records as well. So everything starts with doctor's diagnosis, right? So even prescription, even diagnosis, everything will start with initial diagnosis in a way. So when we are digitizing diagnosis with diagnosis engine, everything else can easily fall into this place, and automatically lab reports, medication, everything can come into digital platforms. So that way this will be having a lot of prominence going forward. So inside this we have pharmacists again as the next people. So pharmacists are people who sell drugs, and they maintain different resources for healthcare domain. It can be any healthcare surgicals or even pharmaceutical supplements that we will need from time to time in healthcare industry. So as we understood, there is a huge demand for expiry alerts for drugs. A lot of drugs are being wasted in a pharmaceutical industry just because they're not timely notified with expiry dates, or managing the expiry dates of these drugs is becoming more and more complicated. So having a expiry related notifications in an application would help a lot to save a lot of money. Also, if there is any exchange option available with the vendors, that can also be incorporated at the same time. So we also understood that there are different people who has the need of particular drug and have not the availability of that particular drug, and there are people who have the drug and that is being expired. So if there is any possibility to give a bridge between these two people, so we can actually solve supply and demand problem here. So people who have demand of that particular drug can actually request the people who has a lot of supply of it and who cannot use it within the expiry time. So that way we can bridge the gap and we can solve a lot of problem in pharmaceutical industry. And we also have heard a lot about pharmacists tendency to get into e-commerce industry. So definitely pretty much every domain on the planet, it went into e-commerce industry right now, but somehow healthcare domain did not reach up to its maximum potential in a way. So a lot of pharmacists that we interviewed has expressed their interest in getting into small and medium e-commerce domains, as to getting subscribers from their users, and regular subscriptions from their users is also appreciated. So any application for pharmacists which incorporates a small level of e-commerce, which can just give a subscription to their users, or give their products or give their medicines online, so that the users can actually search nearby pharmacists and they can buy it online, which can be delivered quickly in their locality. That way we can help a lot of pharmacists as well. Going forward, we have medical practitioners. These are the people who are taking in charge of patients who cannot visit the doctor regularly, or who needs a regular attention of their health. So these are the private people who has a good knowledge of healthcare domain, and they will take care of their patients vital, and from time to time they will be giving intimations to the doctor as to what is the situation of the patient's health is. So again, here also we were discussing with different medical practitioners who have expressed a lot of interest in online patient management systems. So due to COVID, most of these people are not able to practically or physically attend to these patients, but still they have managed it somehow using a lot of online applications. But having a dedicated application for online appointments is actually a most needed requirement from whatever we have heard. So if you see the screen here, we have prepared this for this requirement only. So we have an online appointment where we have a patient and we have a doctor, and this will be monitored by healthcare practitioner who will understand the symptoms of this particular patient. And in the real time, this can be viewed by the doctor as well. And in the same real time, they can give the prescriptions as well. So both of these details have to be noted down by the medical practitioner, or if not, a machine learning algorithm can actually take care of that by automatically storing this data in a proper place. And it can be simplified by storing in a dashboard for this particular patient. So this kind of online systems, online appointment systems, will help the medical practitioners do their job very easily. And the next one is medical practitioners dashboards. So this is to maintain multiple different patient records and to attend to them in a regular interval. So this can involve time to time recurring follow-ups, and also reminders as to when a particular patient needs to be followed up again in the next time. So again, if there is any medication that we have to prescribe over a period of time, then those kind of notifications can also be incorporated in these dashboards. So a typical dashboard would not look like any of the medical dashboards. It would be more of a logistic or supply chain dashboard, where we would be looking at different people who will be involved in the healthcare of a particular patient. So it can be doctors, it can be pharmaceutical people, or it can be lab reports or laboratory technicians who will be involved in understanding the health of a particular patient. So managing all these people in one dashboard would be critical for these people. So having a medical practitioner's application which involves all this kind of functionality would always be appreciated by these people. So last but not least, we are coming to hospitals. So recently we have seen a lot of different trends in hospital management. So due to COVID, there has been a lot of issue with bed availability and also resource availability. So again, as we discussed with pharmaceutical industry, people who has a lot of resources and do not know what to do with them have trouble communicating with people who has actual need of them. So let's say we have oxygen cylinders, if you take as an example. So there are a lot of people who has excess of oxygen cylinders, and there are a lot of people who had a lot of need with oxygen cylinders. So bridging this gap would be a great advantage going forward to address the situations like COVID and other stuff. So in order to achieve that, we have also researched on a different levels of hospitals, which gave us a hint of their requirement. So we have prepared something relevant to that. So here, if we see, we can also monitor different resources of a hospital, and we can typically exchange the resources with different hospitals as per the need. So we have created a few dashboards which will typically give us different availability of test kits here. So if there is any requirement of the test kit, a typical hospital can reach out to other hospitals in the region or even out of the region, and they can actually request for those drugs and test kits. In the same way, bed availability, we can also give an account of how many beds that are available in our hospital. So if there is any requirement as an urgency, we can definitely give the opportunity for the users directly come into the portal and book their bed if it is available. And the next one is bed management systems. It's not just leasing out to other people or putting it on a typical e-commerce platform outside, but it is also managing internally. So the bed management is nothing but it's like a life cycle of a bed over a period of time. So maintaining it in a way of timeline is what we suggest here. So when a patient takes a bed, what is his status, and maintaining his different states over a period of time will always give us upper hand to understand what happened in that particular bed in that particular day. So having, let's say this is a bed details, we have bed number 301, and we have patient details here. When is he joining, when is he assigned to that particular bed, and what is the status of his health. So if it is low priority, medium priority, or high priority. And we can also see his medical history. We can also see his bed history, like who are the different patients that occupied this bed previously, and who is the doctor assigned, what is the equipment that is assigned. So this way we can manage the different resources in our hospital at a micro level, and also very efficiently to reduce the costs. So this is again a suggestion from us for different hospital based applications. So this is it from us. And if there is any questions regarding this, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Partha. Thank you, Scott. Yes, Partha, we do have quite a few questions. If you take a look at the Q&A box, I think Scott has answered a few.
Yeah.
There are still some
Sure, we'll look forward to quickly answer all of them. So first question is, how are our UX resources and research methods used in healthcare? So where does it specifically translate? So again, when we talk about UX, most of the UX principles are generic to all the industries, but when it comes to specific healthcare domain, we should also research at a typical specialty level, because we have a lot of different specialties in healthcare. It can be neurology, it can be gastroenterology, it can be anything else. So we have to make sure that we are researching in a particular specialty for that instance, and we should not generalize it for entire healthcare domain. So this is what we can suggest at this point. But where does it specifically translate? It always depends on, again, the specialty that we are dealing with. So on a general basis, we need not be too critical about healthcare domain, but on a specific level, we have to be very sure whether we are, answering to the particular cause or not. So hope that answered. And we have the next question. If you have a complex flow for a patient, having one action per page could result in many pages, with each additional click potentially impacting retention compliance. Has this been considered or mitigated for? Yes, Christian. So this is, again, this comes under intention based interaction. So even if we have a complex situation, complex flow or complex situation, we would typically not give away the page authenticity. We would also want to have one click per page only. We will never go for complicated pages, but inside the same page we would give one click as a prominent action, and other clicks as a inferior actions. So we will highlight the most important action in that particular page, and any other actions that might help the user to take a decision will be slightly less emphasized. We do not emphasize it the same way. So unless the user wants it, for sure he will not be looking at those things. So that way we can systematically organize the entire scenario. So the next question would be, what's the best way to find a UX internship in healthcare? So I think it's very easy nowadays. People are giving a lot of opportunities for user experience designers, and you can get onto any healthcare company, which is a product-based company, and definitely there'll be a lot of things to learn from them, and they'll be doing a lot of research as well as to how to get a better hand at solving the people's problems. So I think any startup or a healthcare tech company, product company, would do a good offering for internship. Next question is, how do you make sure phones and tablets don't intersect with the health devices? How is it tackled using UX? So I'm not sure what it means about intersecting with the healthcare devices, but most of the time we would use Wi-Fi technologies to connect with different devices. So typically, if there is any hardware related issue, we should deal with it in a different way. But I don't think we have most of the UX to deal with the connectivity part. But when it comes to user interface design, we have to design the screen of connectivity in such a way that it is not so cluttered with all these devices. We should clearly divide these devices properly, and we should name the devices properly so that people are not confused with different devices. So if there is a device with the same name, people don't know which whether it's a heart monitor or even a sugar testing device. So we should name them clearly and give an icon for each device so that it's easily understandable for the users. So that's it for that question, Justin. Next question, the same person asked, so is there any user research on what are the preference of colors for patients? Yes, Justin, definitely. So as we discussed already, cool colors are considered pretty homely for normal users. If that's not encouraging them to do any action on an urgency, we would always prefer cool colors, which are blues and greens most of the time. So that will give a friendly look, and that will make the user settle down on the page. It will not make the user do any hasty actions. So it's a well researched theory that we have to use cool colors when we are making the user stay down calm. So the next question would be, what are the advantages of mobile first approach? So definitely there are huge advantages of mobile first approach, because if you see the usage of mobile devices has increased exponentially, and pretty much everyone has a mobile phone nowadays. So we first point is we don't lose anything by going for mobile first approach, because we design for the mobiles first, and all the screens look beautiful on a mobile phone, and the experience also is optimized for a mobile phone, so that we don't miss out on an opportunity to impress our users on a mobile device. So after that, definitely we will have to scale up to a desktop device, but giving a mobile first approach will always have its advantages. Our images will look optimized for mobile, our buttons will look optimized for a mobile, even the loading will be optimized for a mobile. So first, thinking about mobile device will always desktop device will always suffice the situation, because when we are good at mobile, desktop is far easier. That's what we clearly understand with our experience. So always go for a mobile first approach while designing any application. So next question: are the use of cool colors as the best practice to also reduce patient anxiety? Definitely, that is definitely what we wanted to say. So the patients would always be anxious if they see something red. Most of the times they would feel anxious about what happened there, because we use red as a color which is alerting generally. So we would not want to use most of reds unless it is very important, or not only reds, also orange, yellow. These colors are typically understood as colors which will provoke action. So we would not want the users to do action without thinking. So we will always use to maintain cool colors, so that they will be settled down first and they will think through while before taking any action. So next question would be, does the bed management system is in use or in test somewhere? Yeah, actually, if you're from India, I think there's been a huge issue with bed management. People have this issue. A lot of hospitals face this issue, and they didn't find beds, and they had to create new. They have to arrange new facilities for bed management. They have created new beds. They installed new beds somewhere, and they converted a few public places as hospitals as well. So bed management has become a huge priority in the recent times, especially due to COVID. Not only bed management, it's also resource management. The oximeters were under a lot of requirement, and the demand for oximeters, demand for oxygen cylinders, and demand for a lot of surgical equipment also has become a big priority right now. So this has been a huge priority due to COVID scenario, especially in India, and definitely there are scenarios in other countries as well, but yeah, definitely in India. So how conversation design help the healthcare domain? Yeah, so this also we discussed, right? So conversation design is nothing but we'll not ask the user to do everything on his own. We will actually ask him what to do next. If there is a person who is asking as a third person, let's say, please enter this next, please do this next, please do that next. So if you are giving that instructions as a second person or a third person inside the application, let it be artificial intelligence or even a chatbot, that will help the user to understand exactly what he has to do next. So instead of thinking about too many things, when we are talking to a person and answering to a person, we'll be more free to answer rather than doing it on our own. So having this personal touch on an application would always be appreciable by the users. So having a conversational design, definitely that's on the top of the edge actually. So again, the next question is, there was no mention of AR VR. Is it a future tech sometime for future implementation? Yeah, so AR VR definitely is a promising thing, but the technology that supports, the hardware technology that supports AR VR is not well established as of now. Also, most people are not even well versed with that. So the current presentation that we had today is mostly focusing towards people who are just starting out to do healthcare technology. And again, AR VR for healthcare is kind of a tech savvy thing to discuss at this point. So maybe in the coming webinars we'll be happy to discuss about that. But definitely AR VR has a huge potential in technology, in healthcare technologies, because going forward, maybe AR VR based operations, AR VR based diagnosis also might be possible. So that's an interesting field altogether, and a lot of things to discuss. We will be discussing that in the later webinars. Then we have next question from anonymous attendee. A lot of colors have been used in bed management screens, which is hard to concentrate on the details. Yes, definitely. So that is actually strategized in a particular way, so that those colors are used for a particular reason. So definitely, we would not encourage to use many colors, but when there is a requirement or a need, because in that particular screen, if you particularly see, there are different states for this application. It's not just one state. So in order to signify the states on the go, we used the color to differentiate between different states of the bed. So in this one instance, we would have to do that. But again, we can try different other ways of addressing that problem as well. Again, another question from anonymous: why can't we use the tablet device for doctors, which will be easy for them to fill the details to compare as compared to filling through mobile? Definitely tablet is also a mobile device as per what we say. So it's not much different from mobile but still while designing, we have to design in the same way for mobile and also a tablet. But yeah, it doesn't actually differentiate too much, tablet or mobile. But designing for both of them is pretty much similar for UX design people. So again, most of the healthcare brands uses their own products. If you are thinking of creating a whole new ecosystem among the existing healthcare system, how we would be able to solve it with the healthcare brands? Actually, once again, I'll read it once again. So most of the healthcare brand uses their own products. So when we say healthcare brand, of course, I think it should be a product on its own, but I'm not sure what type of healthcare brands are we discussing here. So yeah, I think creating a new ecosystem among the existing healthcare system. I'm not sure. Again, if you could explain that, Arif, it will be helpful for me to answer. But yeah, that's about that. The next question is from Shivam: how to convince client for access to users for research purpose? It's a very tricky thing, actually. As I told, HIPAA compliance has become very strict nowadays, and people are becoming very vigilant about what data is being shared with other people. So again, unless we have some good relations with the organization, it's highly not sure. We cannot be sure that they would be free to share the data. But again, we are not sure what kind of clients are we discussing here. But yeah, again, it depends on from case to case. We cannot justify on a generalized basis. Again, next one is from Aline. And can you please comment on results of bed or equipment management, lead times, reduction for equipment, or to have a bed available for patient? Does the software you showed is available for use? How is it called? Actually, this is the software that we designed for typical hospitals, for personal use. So it is not publicly available as of now, but we can also see online maybe if it is available, any kind of applications. But this is a very recent need that we came across, and we created it very recently. So I don't think many others were in a position to create it as of now. But yeah, it is not available outside. But if you are interested to know more about it, maybe you can reach out to Walking Tree Technologies, where we can give you an idea about what it is all about. We would be very happy to explain that. Yeah. Then the next one is from Bhavak Thakur. Yeah, sorry. So if we are talking about real-time cloud sync, so it's also be included in HIPAA compliance. What things in UX we can take care of? Okay. So again, in HIPAA compliance, we've discussed about this. It's all about authentication and cryptography. We have to encrypt our data for sure, because even if it is cloud sync, right, there is high chance that people would get access to the data through different ways of hacking, whatever new technologies are coming nowadays for hacking. So we should make sure that our data is encrypted at a device level rather than at a server level. So device level in the sense, wherever the data is being gathered, let's say the patient device or even the doctor device, we should make sure that it is encrypted at that stage, and whatever is transferred to the cloud service, it should be transferred encrypted only. So I think most of the cloud services are taking care of this already. So we don't need to worry too much. We just need to make sure that we take the right plan with the cloud services. So that is with respect to encrypting. Again, we can also think about authentication systems, and also session timeouts, because if a patient is logged in for a long time, we should make sure that he's actually using the application rather than having the device gone to some other hands and making use other people making use of the data. So typically these are 2-3 items that we can make sure that HIPAA compliance is complied with. So that's the suggestion from that. I think all the questions were answered. So
Yes,
any other
and
questions?
that's all the time we have for today. So thank you, Partha, thank you, Scott, and thank you to all the attendees for joining us today.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed today's session and you found it very insightful. If you still have some comments, any feedback you'd like to share with the speakers, please free to reach out to us through the event page. And thank you once again.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you all.